pledge allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, we are going to begin with a public forum. So we were contacted in advance that Dr. David Bankston would like to speak. Would you like to go first?
Yes.
Okay, come on up.
My name is Dr. David Bankston. I live at 402 West 8th Street, Winthrop, Minnesota. My zip is 55396, if you didn't know that. Most everyone here knows me. I've been a dentist in Winthrop for over 40 years. So my office has been at its current location since 1997. My reason for speaking to you today is to request that we do not have planters placed in front of my office. It would become an obstruction, especially in the winter when it snows, and it could cause someone to be injured. I also would like an ADA handicapped accessible ramp like you placed at the clinic across the street. Our office sees handicapped and elderly patients on a regular basis. You have provided a first-class ADA handicapped accessible ramp for the clinic across the street that takes you from the street in front of the clinic to the front door. The ends of our city block have proper ADA handicapped accessible ramps. My office is not located at the end of the block. The most direct and safest route to my clinic door is from the street in front of my office. Over these years, I've had a lot of experience with snow in front of my office. We have people who remove our snow early in the morning, and then they remove snow for the rest of their customers. As it continues to snow, the front of my office and the alley fill with snow, as it does for everyone. I shovel a path for my patients, which every business must do. But the alley to my west and my neighbor's driveway to my east become inaccessible. There's no reason for the planters. And I have a question. So I'm speaking tonight to you. Does that mean that you vote on this tonight, or are you just hearing me tonight?
So what you bring to us and our how we deal with the public forum is anyone can speak, and the council doesn't act on that or even engage in a real conversation, because the reason behind that is it's not fair to you as a resident coming or to us if we don't have information to make a good decision. And that's on advice of our city attorney, and we've had that policy for the last several years.
That's fine. As you said last time I came up too, I viewed it a total waste of time. I'll just be honest with you. Yeah, you'll hear us, but you don't do anything. And at least from my perspective. And so I would have to say that after the election, I will attempt to have those removed if they've been put in place. I will just tell you that up front. I will do whatever I can to make that happen. I don't want anybody to get hurt. I care about my patients. I care about people coming to the street. It's an unnecessary obstruction, and I want it out of there. And so one other thing I want to say is that Mr. Luft and my wife had an exchange in front of our office. During this exchange, I was between patients. I had two staff members who are in our break room. Windows were open, they could see out the window. They heard the entire exchange. And I got a play-by-play while it was happening. So my wife is going to come up, Sue, and talk about that. And I'm sure you have your own story, but she's going to come up and tell hers. And people need to know this. I mean, I feel like if this is happening to us, it's probably happened to other people. So that's why it's very important. So she'll be up next after me. I'm done. Thank you.
Can you keep the 2 minutes so that we can keep going? That's
In the interest of, and this is not aimed at anybody in particular, our policy for the open forum has been each resident gets 2 minutes to speak, so that if there appear to be a lot of people who have something to say, we're going to try and keep to that 2 minutes so that we can keep the meeting moving, because we do have a lengthy business meeting to get to at the end. So just keep that in mind, that we're not unfairly signaling anybody out. Everybody should adhere to the 2 minutes.
And if you want more time,
I hope I can get done.
Well, call ahead of time and get on the agenda.
Well,
That gives you more,
we tried.
yeah.
And to clarify, our city
Yes.
charter says that.
Yes, I know.
I'm making the statement for the public. If you want to be on the agenda, the city charter says we need 3 business days so that it can be properly brought to the agenda and information provided to the council before a meeting. Go ahead, Sue.
Okay. I'm Sue Bankson, and my husband is David, and I live at 402 West 8th Street, Winthrop. I had a conversation with Michael Luft on Wednesday, September 25th, outside the dental office. I was trying to help him to understand that the office needs handicapped access and that the planters are in the way of the handicap parking now that we only have parallel parking in front of the office. He kept saying that everything would be fine and it was all in the plan and it can't be changed, and he said it would look he would look at the plan. Then he told me that the driveway is for handicap, but that is private property. Then he said that you could use the alleyway, but there are cars that go through there and it's not for people with wheelchairs and walkers, and the planters are in the way of the people trying to get out of their cars and vans, and it is an obstacle that they shouldn't have to maneuver around, especially in the winter. I also said that the clinic across the street doesn't have any obstructions, and they have a nice handicapped accessible way to get over the curb. And I didn't yell and I didn't scream and I didn't call him names. He then got very agitated and said I was too close and I needed to step back. I stepped back. Then he told me that he has worked on this for 2 years, and also he said that we have done so much for you people. And I said, I thanked him for that. And then he said there was something wrong with me, and that he said I can't talk to you, and that I don't come near me again. He was walking away from me and he turned back and he said to me, you are evil and you need to go home and take your meds. Oh my goodness. I do have witnesses that said that he said that to me. And he said to me that, what he said to me is unacceptable and unprofessional for a person that represents the city of Winthrop. I called Mayor Trebelhorn and she said that that is not what he had told her. I am here tonight because I don't want anyone else to be talked to in that way. David and I are asking for help for our patients that are disabled and handicapped and elderly, so they can get safely in and out of the office. Thank you.
Thank you.
Megan Schmidt, 214 West 9th Street, Winthrop here. As many of you know, I was on the past council when this plan was going through. And I am here to speak in support of the Bankstons, because when this plan was going through, I several times tried to bring up the placement of planters, how many planters there was, and I was told, well, that was the icing on the cake. We could maybe go back and change that. That's what Rob Edwards said. And then the ISG engineer was here and she said, no, that's going to be a significant change order if you try to change it later. But there was no discussion ever about looking at the plan more carefully to make sure it suited businesses. And this is what happens when we don't do our job, when we just push a plan through and don't talk to the businesses that are on there. And I have to thank Dr. Bankston for the years of service he's done for our community. This isn't just like any business. He can't go out to a car and treat a patient in their car. Like, I run a pharmacy for almost 13 years and we had delivery service, so patients had an option to have their meds delivered, or we could run them out to the car for them. That's not possible with his patients. They need to be able to access the office. He's just looking out for his elderly and disabled patients and anybody else who has accessibility or mobility issues. He's just looking out for them, and I would hope the city would also do the same. Thank you.
Thank you.
I am Loretta Stutzman from Winthrop, Minnesota here, and I am one of those disabled people. I cannot walk well, and I need a cane, and it's important for me to have a disability handicap spot in front or very close to a business that I can get in and out. Just one note of positive, something positive I want to say. The people that have worked uptown, the people that have laid the concrete and worked up there have been very polite and kind. Somebody helped me get to the post office. He was a worker and he says, "Ma'am, do you want me to go get your mail?" And I says, "You know what, I'd love it." He got my mail for me. And I know her grandchildren came to watch the workers and they were very polite and kind to her. So they've been good people and stuff. But I have one more negative thing I have to say. And this is the old lady in me. The police chief, as dear as he might be, and I looked it up on Facebook or Google or whatever, you should not be wearing a hat in a public building. You should not be wearing your hat backwards. When you come into a public building or a church, please take your hat off. Or if you want me to get a hat that says Winthrop Police Department, I'll buy it for him. But as long as it matches his uniform and he wears it right. Thank you.
I'm Tom Whittaky, 309 South Main. I wrote 2 checks today, but one for 306 South Main, and 309 South Main, and one for 306 South Carter. I'm a taxpayer. I asked you guys, before you ever did the beautification, if you went and talked to the business people. That wasn't you. You were on the council, but you slid over. But that was you and Mr. Edwards. You work for us. I don't work. What is this whole thing that you don't work for? I pay taxes in this town. Doc pays tax. He's the biggest business private with the most employees in Winthrop. If we lose our dentist, then what? I mean, we've already lost enough businesses and we do not need to lose it. And I moved snow from the pharmacy, from Jenny's, all the way down to the end of the block. So I know what snow removal is about. I know you cannot put a skid steer between the flower pots and the businesses. It just doesn't look like it's possible. And is the city gonna assume the responsibility? Because I also took care of Roger Osborne's business, which now Doc Caban's business, from RS Fiber all the way to the alley. That does not get any sun. So it's ice all the time when we get snow and ice. It's constant salting, trying to get, so you put a flower pot between a business and in the street, now you're gonna trap that moisture. The sun can't get to it. Thank God with a pharmacy, when we had decent sunny days, most of the time within a day or two, we could get that thing to look right. How are you gonna do that with flower pots? Who the heck's gonna get out there and shovel? Are you gonna get out there and shovel? Why should you put that responsibility on the poor business owners? Because if somebody falls, is it the city gonna assume the responsibility? I'm assuming if you create the problem, you should assume the responsibility.
And I said before, this isn't it's not the time to have that conversation with city staff or council. You can please make your statement and we are listening, but.
I don't think you are listening, because I don't think you went and talked to Doc Bankston whether he wanted flower pots or not. This is all before the beautification project was put in. We came to the meetings and asked you politely to go talk to the business. You really don't care. You don't listen to your people. How many businesses are gone on Main Street? Yeah, we're getting some new ones, but my 2 minutes are up. But I've talked to you and I appreciate when you actually listen, but just don't give us lip service. I mean, you really have to think about this. And it's not a big ask for him to not have flower pots there. And I move snow, so I know what it's about. And I won't move snow now because I want to assume the liability. Please, and November can change things. Just remember that, people. We got an election coming up, and the people that don't want to listen to us, it's time to change those things. Thank you.
Mark Sandelman, 703 North Hennepin, Winthrop, Minnesota, still fighting my vertigo issue. Well, I was going to come up here and talk about a rumor that had been going around town as Martha and I were out campaigning all last week. A rumor about a city employee being unprofessional and conducting himself with a resident on city time, during city business in a way that was unacceptable. Well, you've been notified by the source, Mayor, twice, here and on the phone. You only have one choice. You need to launch an investigation. The city deserves and demands resolution to this, and we expect you to get something started and to look into this serious charge and this serious allegation. If it is true, what the citizen said, there's only, my research indicates termination for cause is the only outcome. You do not, a city employee, an elected official, does not talk to a citizen that way. Thank you.
Anyone else? Barb?
Can I just stay here?
No, we need you to come up so we can.
My name is Barb Johnson. I live at 308 North Main Street, Winthrop. I've talked to the city a number of times. The lot next to me is full of, the trees are full of dead branches, and I'm right next to the city lot, and they fly onto my property all the time. And I would like those, you know, you can leave the trees, do whatever you want, but get the dead branches and the leaves off of my roof of my house. And I would also, my street light is not working in front of my house. And I remember a note during the electric bill a couple of years ago that I was being charged $5 a month for the street light on Main Street. And it hasn't worked for months and months, so winter's coming and it's gonna get dark, and I would like that working. So, that's what I have to say.
Thank you.
And I agree with everything said here tonight about the planters and all that and the trees. And in Gaylord, the businesses don't like the trees either in front of their businesses. So businesses wanna be seen, not hidden by trees or whatever, so. All right, thank you.
Anyone else?
Can all three of us come up and
Sure.
pull a chair up, or just one?
No, you can come as a group.
Like groups. You want me to talk? Yeah, sure.
Hi, so we are, I am Kelsey Odegaard and Katie Gran and Samantha Kroll, and we are on the Parks Committee. And so we just wanted to come with and wrote something. So we want to take this opportunity to sincerely thank you for allowing us to move forward with this much needed parks improvements. It's because of your dedication to our community that we are here today, ready to take the next step toward enhancing our shared public spaces. As many of you know, we worked hard to rally the community's support around this project, and we are pleased to share that so far we have raised over $16,000 towards improvements. This is a true testament to our commitment and generosity of the residents, businesses, and organizations. Their willingness to contribute both financially and in spirit shows just how important this initiative is to everyone. Additionally, we are currently awaiting the outcome of a grant application for $50,000. To support this application, we gathered at least 5 letters of support from various stakeholders who are deeply invested in the future of our parks. This letter reflected the strong partnerships and shared visions we have for improving our public spaces, which will benefit our community for years to come. Beyond the grant, we also reached out to local businesses and organizations for their support, and the response has been tremendous. From financial contributions to their vocal support, it's clear that our community wants to see this project succeed. Their belief in the values of these improvements reinforces just how impactful these parks are to the quality of life here in Winthrop. So once again, thank you to the City Council for your continued support and for believing in this project. It's been collaborative effort every step of the way, and your backing has made all of the difference. Together, we are not just improving parks, we are enhancing the heart of this community.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks.
Alright. Anyone else? Anybody else like to speak at the public forum? Come on up.
I'm Diane Ferdine from the Winthrop Community Historical Society. I was a little alarmed when I looked at the Winthrop News from September 18th. And it reads, Winthrop Historical Society receives a $5,000 contribution from the city each year. It has not been requested this year, but the council left it in the budget. Thank you for leaving it in the budget. However, I do want to let you know that I did give to Michael a copy of where we are as far as what has been given to the Historical Society. The very first year, I was granted $7,000. And after that, through last year, I was granted $5,000. And I have here a sheet showing exactly what I spent and how much I received. So actually, the money that I was budgeted and granted throughout the years was $52,000. Thank you. My totals, however, were $52,002.70. So it was $2.70 over budget. The beginning of this year, I talked to Michael and I gave him my summary. And I said at the very bottom, through the years I have tried to keep close to the granted city's Winthrop Community Historical Society's allowed budget. It appears that I am over $2.70. However, as our monthly expenses are increasing each year, I would like to ask for a few extra $100 to compensate for the increased costs. Thank you. So here I did ask to be put on the budget, not just for $5,000, but perhaps a few more. I will pass this around, and Michael, you remember, and you, I'm sure, have this copy with your records. And at the same time, he received a copy of all the checks that I have issued. Now, this is for last year because this year isn't done with yet. And out of all the various checks that I wrote.
Diane, we are trying to keep to 2 minutes
Okay.
for everybody, so.
Centerpoint, we paid $1,200, city $1,300 or $1,400, RS Fiber.
I would
Not quite
suggest that this is a
1,000.
good thing to take to a committee or bring that information to the city office during the day.
Oh.
This isn't on the agenda, it's not something
Oh,
that
I
we can
was,
get
I
into
was
tonight.
told I was on the agenda. No?
No,
I have
You,
nothing.
you asked me to come.
Your information was put in the council packet for the budget, but I didn't, you were just here for the open forum, not for an agenda item. If you wanted an official agenda item, we can definitely put that together.
we could put
Okay.
that on next month's agenda, that would be fine.
Okay, sure.
But your,
I really
your
thought I
request-
was on the agenda, but I see that I'm not.
No, we'll be
So-
happy, we'll be happy.
I didn't see that in the email from you, that you wanted to be on the agenda.
No, this was verbal between me and you when I was sitting there in your office.
Okay, I apologize, I didn't realize you wanted to be on the full agenda, but I can put you on there.
Okay, all right. At that point, I'll have copies of everything. My printer broke today,
Okay,
so
You
I
bring it up
can't
to
give
us, we
that
can
to
make
you. I
copies.
just want to let you know, and I'm told that I'm on the budget. It's just that you haven't approved it. And I'm
We approved
assuming,
our preliminary budget, and we will.
is that correct?
Yes, we'll
Okay.
approve the final budget in December.
All right. And how would you like for me to ask you
I'll give you a
to be
call.
put on the agenda?
I'll give you a call.
Okay, all right.
All right, do we have anyone else who would like to speak at the public forum? Anyone else? Going once? Twice? All right, then we will move on to our agenda in front of us. Does anybody have anything to add to the agenda?
I don't, I have a question. I thought we had a policy or a form that if somebody had a problem with a city employee, that they would fill that out.
We do.
I believe we have that. That way, the admin committee can take a look at that and do more investigation on that. And for anybody who would have a question about an employee.
And it's not even limited to employees, it's
Yeah.
it's anything that people would like brought to
Yeah.
the council's attention.
Yes.
Okay, so anything to add to the agenda? Ed?
Nope.
Kelly?
No.
Wanda? Michael, do you have anything to add?
I do not.
All right, would someone like to move to approve the agenda?
So moved. Second.
Is there a second? Motion by Dawn, second by Ed. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, the consent agenda. Everybody had a chance to look over the minutes, financials, et cetera? Somebody like to move to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
I second.
Second by Wanda. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, public hearing. That's in your packet. Michael, you wanna walk us through that?
Yeah, sure can. So the public hearing tonight is for the abatement and assessment of property taxes for past due utilities and/or assessments to abatement for non-paying for citations. We'll do like we did last meeting. State statute requires us to do 2 public hearings, and so we did give notice to those on there, and then obviously they're posted. The first one is for Donzel Lindsay at 101 North Hennepin. Does anyone wish to speak? Second is Lucas Steuben, 704 North Carver Street. The next one's Pamela Ralph for 514 North Carver. And Leanne Johnson at 304 North Hennepin Street. Amanda Milkey at 311 North Renville Street. Christina Arms at 303 South Redwood Street. Jake Creech at 307 North Hennepin. Lindsay Muchow at 801 North Main Street. Sharon Meyer at 105 South Main Street. And Robert Bozema at 304 South Renville Street. And Vanessa Isaacson at 210 West 2nd Street. And then TKRE LLC at 812 North Main Street. I know I've talked about it. That would be it for the public hearing.
There was one in the middle, is that the DM?
Yeah.
That's taken care of?
Yep.
Okay.
You
All
want to
right.
close the public hearing?
Yes, someone would like to move to close the public hearing?
So moved. Close the public hearing.
Motion by Dawn, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Ed. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. And we've got 5.2, both of those were?
Both of
included in
those
that
were
list?
done.
Okay,
Yep, together.
All right, moving on to new business. The resolution 2024-040, accepting the settlement with RV Midwest Rentals LLC. Somebody like to make a motion regarding that?
Make a motion to accept the settlement.
I'll second.
Motion by Ed, second by Dawn to approve accepting the settlement. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, 6.2, resolution 2024-034, assessments of property taxes for past due utility and other services.
That's just the public hearing that we just held.
Oh, okay.
It's in the total amount of $8,293.94, and then there is that private service line that was
Right.
on there from earlier this year.
All right, someone would like to make a motion regarding the resolution 34. Motion by Wanda,
Second.
second by Kelly. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. 6.3, the ordinance 2024-002, an interim ordinance for maritime storage containers. Give us the background. We
Yeah,
talked
I'll
about
give
this
you a little bit of
before.
background. So storage containers have become a problem not just for our city, but cities around us. Our building code inspector, Darren Haslip, wants us to really clarify and have planning and zoning go through and really spell out what will allow for storage containers. So under Minnesota State Uniform Building Code, storage containers are not allowed. They are not conforming to our building standards. And so some of those standards include lead paint. These are for maritime use, so they have a lot of inspections that don't go through a normal building. So like when wood is imported or another metal is imported, they go through an inspection process. So a lot of pesticides are actually on these containers. They get sprayed when they get into port to kill anything off. So when they get tested here in Minnesota, lead paint has been noticed, pesticides that run off into our groundwater, that type of thing. The other thing is some people are using them as actual construction material, which is a whole nother ballgame. So once you use it as a actual structural material to build things, it becomes a material. So that means that an architect gets involved, an engineer gets involved, and they put their stamp of approval on that. But what's not happening with these containers is they're not being anchored, they're not putting foundations, so during inclement weather, sometimes they move. If you've ever moved a 40-foot storage container, it doesn't take much, right? You bump it a little bit with a forklift and they move pretty readily. So this interim ordinance is putting a moratorium on all storage containers until we can figure out an actual policy. It's not that the Uniform Building Code doesn't already address it, but it's not very clear. And it actually is very confusing to residents, because if you're like me, you don't read the Uniform Building Code every single day. So this will go back to planning and zoning. They'll create a policy. They've already kind of looked at some of it, but we'll start convening again and we'll start working on this. So this is just an interim ordinance that will have a moratorium on any storage containers coming into the city.
Can I comment on that?
No, I think this is just an action the council's taking, so.
Okay.
All right, so the request is from staff to put in place the interim ordinance. And I think planning and zoning is the right place for that to go. That's a group that has time to really dig into it and look into the specifics and how it impacts our community. So I would like to see it go to planning and zoning. Anybody like to make a motion?
I move that we put that over to planning and zoning for them to take a look at it for the interim ordinance.
Okay, motion by Dawn, is there a second?
Seconded.
Motion by Dawn, second by Wanda. Is there any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor of the interim ordinance for maritime storage containers, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Budget review.
Can we just take a second?
Yeah, go ahead.
Explain to everybody how the council meeting works. I don't want you to
That's-
think that we're
that's a good
cutting
point.
everybody out.
Yes.
It's,
So in the interest of a business meeting, we do have to accomplish the things on our agenda, or city bills wouldn't be paid and actions aren't taken. So we have to keep it moving, and we have, our city charter says that to be added on the agenda, we need at least 3 days' notice, and things can be requested to put on the agenda. If there's something that we have asked for a resident to address during a public meeting, the council can choose to do that, but in the interest of keeping a meeting going, we don't generally have people just jump in and address the issue at hand. And probably you wouldn't want, none of you would want to sit through a meeting like that because they can go on for hours and hours. It doesn't mean that we don't want to hear what you have to say. In fact, that does make me think of something. Please, if you have things that you would like council to be aware of, come and find us. I'm more than happy to hear from people. I have recently, I will tell you that in the 10 years I've been on council, people are very happy to talk to each other, and they don't often come to us directly. And along those lines, I would like to make it clear that when you have issues with what's going on in Second Street has been the hot topic lately. And those actions taking place on Second Street were from the council sitting here. We are the ones who voted yes to move forward. It wasn't the city administrator, it wasn't the city clerk. Their job is to do what we direct them to do. So if there are questions and concerns, we're the people to talk to. You can certainly, it should also come to the city, and you can talk to staff at any time, but to direct a lot of it, to assume that they are responsible, or that, you know, Michael designed the planters is patently false. He's implementing the design that the council directed the engineers to put in place. So if you need to get a hold of me, my email is available on the city website, and my phone number, if you would like it, is 507-722-4189. Okay. So that was a little bit of a tangent, sorry about that. Okay, so we are talking budget review.
Yeah, I just wanted to give you a little bit of an update on the budget review. We actually increased our deductible per our insurance agent. We've only taken out 2 claims. Our deductible before was only $500. We're gonna bump it to $2,500 and get bang for a buck, so that lowered some of the levy costs. We also did our switch over from RS Fiber to Verizon this last week on Wednesday. Again, that'll save about 1%, that's $10,000. We're waiting for our first Verizon bill to make sure that we update it, but it'll go down actually more from this. So we'll talk more about that during Truth and Taxation in December, but that increase is now 5.4%, our cash value of less than $50,000. So.
Which is evidence of a lot of very careful budgeting and spending reductions. So I would like to commend the city staff again for that, and all of the departments, because they did a lot of trimming. We didn't have as much, as background for anybody who doesn't know that, our revenue has gone down because of reductions in local government aid and other things. If we had kept our city expenses where they were last year, our levy would have gone up by much, much more. But each department really looked at their expenses, and they trimmed sometimes to the tune of 15 or 20% of their expenses. And it was thoughtful and well-planned. Some of it is a result of our improved accounting system. We can do much more effectively with a smaller staff in the front office. So I think the city staff really did step up. So if you talk to anyone, any of the department heads, ask them about the budget, because they put a lot of time into it. So we do appreciate that very much. All right, so budget review is just informational. We will
Yep.
move on to, unless anybody has any more questions. Anything? All right. 6.5, approval of renewal of the liquor license for Hans and Tinker Bay. That's in your packet.
Mhm.
They all had their insurance liabilities.
Yep.
It was all in place.
I so moved to approve.
Motion by Kelly, is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dawn. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. 6.6, the Sibley County Library Agreement.
Yeah, so, just a little bit of background and history on this. So the state of Minnesota appropriated additional funds to all the regional library systems. So TDS, our regional library system, gave us additional funding for the libraries, for the local libraries. It was supposed to go to us. What Sibley County is proposing to the local libraries is to cut our funding because the TDS fees are going down. Our agreement that we signed 2 years ago with them puts our level of funding at a certain spot, and that's where they're supposed to keep it. It was a guaranteed 3% increase each year for 3 years. What they're proposing is a decline in the amount of funding that they're giving the city. I did include some of the packet information to show you how big of a decrease that would be for the libraries, but it's
I
over
can give you a little more
there.
background too.
Go
That
for it.
increase took 20 years of lobbying by library groups around the state. And it was miraculous, really, that it finally passed the legislature. And the increase is not, it's not huge, but it was intended to take some of the burden off of local libraries who have seen their budgets crunched by, the increasing costs for city and county governments. And let me say, Sibley County is the only county that is looking at it like that at all. All the other counties in the TDS region and others I've talked to in other regions, that money is supposed to pass through to each local library. And I think in our instance, it's like $5,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is a lot of money for the library. That's a lot of programming, that's a lot of books on the shelf, that's additional hours, however we would choose to do it. I am personally very, very disappointed that Sibley County commissioners are looking at taking that back. To me, it's not any different than if money was budgeted for street maintenance and they said, no, we'll take that and put it in, human resources or some other area. That money is meant for the libraries, and for the county to take that, I think is just not appropriate. And we also have the agreement that we signed with Traverse to Sioux states that the funding should not be decreased because of our membership in Traverse to Sioux. And when I talked to the director at TDS, she said that's a fairly compelling argument that Sibley County is sort of looking at it like, well, because we're members of TDS, we can lower our contribution. And that's not how that contract seems to read. So I don't know what good it would do, but I would like to see us pass a resolution saying that we don't support their lowered contribution.
Yeah, I think at this point, if council wishes, they would make a motion rejecting the proposal of decreased funding.
It's just a proposal? Or did they put that in?
They put it together.
Yeah,
They passed.
it's in their preliminary budget that way.
Do we have to increase our budget?
Yeah,
So moved, by the way, it comes out of ARPA.
that's right, it does.
I'll second.
Motion by Kelly, second by Dawn. Any other discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you very much. Hope it does some good. 6.7, the city park improvement, placing the splash pad on the state bid.
So ISG has constructed the 100% plan to go out to bid. So what will happen, kind of sequentially, is council will put it out to bid this month. The bid goes out until our November meeting, and then council will look at the closed bids. ISG will take the top 4 or 5 bids, depending on what council's wishes are. And then you'll go approve one of those bids and go with spring installation. So it would go from state bid to accepting the bid, and then we would sign construction documents in December.
Can I give some background, because we do have a lot of people here tonight, on the splash pad, how we're funding it. The splash pad funding is out of our CapEx funds. It's like our savings account. So we've been putting money in that savings account, rather like you would personally. If I'm gonna buy a car, I start saving money every month and I build up my savings account. Then when it's time to buy the car, I withdraw some of that money to pay for the car, and then, you know, keep building up that savings account for the next time I need to buy a car, or I need to, you know, side my house or something like that. That's what our CapEx account is being used for this time. We also have a very active community group that has raised
16,000.
16,000?
And they have 2 grants in right now.
Yeah, and they've got grants waiting. We are still looking for more grants. We will continue for the park. Our park is one of the best assets we have in this community. And the park needs some updating. It hasn't really been touched in most of the years I've lived here, and I've lived here a long time. So we are doing this with financial planning. This is not a huge part of your taxes this year. It's a planned use of our savings, and it will be a long-term asset in the park.
The grant was it a DNR grant that we applied for? Can we apply for that again next year?
We sure can,
Even
yeah.
though we've already approved the project and so on?
Yep, so how they do that review is it's a 3-panel discussion, I guess. 3 people review the DNR grants. 2 of the reviewers gave us very high remarks. The last one didn't like the way we worded things from ISG, so we kind of fell middle of the pack, but overall they liked the design plan. I think it's important too to just say like what we're actually doing. So all of this plan is we'll put the splash pad in installation. It includes a recirculating portion, so it takes the water, recycles it, and puts it back into the system. It also puts a sidewalk from parking lot to parking lot, so ADA accommodating sidewalk from one part of our park to the other. So it kind of creates that bottom loop. If you haven't noticed that trail, it needs some help. Anyway, so that's pretty much all that we're putting in this time around. The park committee voted on this because they felt like putting bathrooms in at the same time was just too expensive. Bathroom remodels are, as everyone knows, very expensive. And we skipped playground equipment because again, it just put them way over budget. So they're going for the splash pad right now, and then we'll continue to go for grants for playground equipment, continuing the trails around the park, and following that 5-year plan.
And the ADA accessibility in the park will be a huge improvement too. For any time people are, that applies to people who are not just there for the splash pad. That means it will be easier for people to walk through the park during Farm City Fun Fest, or if they want to walk through and see their kids or grandkids playing on the equipment there. To be accessible for someone with mobility issues is a big thing.
Yeah, and then there was some soil corrections on the east side of the park, kind of where the water always stood.
Yes.
We actually have to put an emergency storm sewer in anyway. There's one right on that street on 7. We're gonna connect that to that. So the draining problems that are happening on that side of the park, we're actually correcting as well so that the path doesn't get eroded. So
That's good, because that sometimes is very wet
Yeah.
on that spot. I think I've watched T-ball games before where they splash every time they step.
Yeah, so, but that's, for right now, that's all that's going in, is that one I would say, trail or sidewalk, the proposed splash pad, and the recirculator.
All right, so we need a motion to put the splash pad on for state bid.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Ed. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Dawn. Any discussion? Any discussion? Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. All right, so we will look forward to that at our November meeting. 6.8, snow removal on Second Street.
Yeah, so, some of the feedback that we got is they would like, a plan by Public Works on how we're gonna remove snow. First, I would like to say that the snow removal actually should be much easier than it used to be. You know, council, we took a drive down there. You know, we were getting rid of a lot of the bumps, the humps, the ramps, the stairways that are in the public right away. So Troy, Chris, and Tommy have all kind of said that they would like to be responsible for the majority of snow removal. But you know, daily maintenance would have to be still, you know, the business owners are still gonna have to participate in that. And they'd be responsible for making sure, you know, when it's continuously snowing or, you know, a little flake comes down, they would still be responsible for that.
But when there's a snow emergency and the city crews are gonna be out, they will clear the downtown Second Street area.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, they'll at least make sure that the sidewalks are passable.
And how big are the flower pots, are 2x4, the flower pot areas?
The planters?
Yeah, the planters.
Yeah, I think we maybe should stop calling that, so they're 2x4, and they stick up about 3 inches. The whole stone that goes in the ground is 6 inches, it sticks up about 3 inches.
So it's actually less than like a city curb. It's
Right.
Yeah, it's not, and they're about, the council walked it off before, they're about 2 feet by 4 feet. So, and I've talked to Troy about this. I walked the street with, Brian, the engineer, and Michael a week and a half ago or so. Brian said he didn't see any problem with any of the snow removal downtown. I've talked to Troy about it. He said they're perfectly ready to do that, and they think it will be fine. They windrow it all to the center and haul it away anyway, and they've got the equipment to do it. So, this does not seem to be a difficult addition for the city guys who are clearing snow.
So what we'll probably do is get a policy together so that you guys can take a look at that and see what it looks like. We're gonna try to call out the you know, the actual streets and, you know, the businesses that are on there, so
Sure.
that
Yeah, that should
everyone kind of
clarify.
understands it, as long as council's okay with that.
All right, so that was just informational, and we'll bring that
Yeah,
back
and
once we
I'll-
have a policy.
I know that Troy, myself, and the League of Minnesota Cities are gonna work on some policy language.
Okay. Yeah, it's helpful to get the League of Minnesota Cities involved. All right, that brings us to do we want to do community notice updates first?
Yeah, we
and then-
could.
Yeah,
Mhm.
let's move 6.9 to the end, and we'll move to updates. So let's start with admin and EDA.
Yeah,
Michael.
sure. So on the end of your agenda packets is the streams update. I'm not gonna go line by line on that. I will tell you that we continue the project with Heartland Farm Products and DFA and the 4 other cities. The DNR had a really good conversation with us on Friday last week. What we're really working on right now is rate structures and cost. Those are the kinds of the things that are keeping the industries waiting. So we will be having those by the end of October. We'll have meetings beginning of November. Council will be invited to those meetings. They will be probably independent meetings, meaning New Auburn, Lafayette, Gibbon, and Winthrop will meet separately. And that's not to keep you guys not talking. It's just easier to explain what that means for each city. For instance, for Winthrop will be a little bit different, just to give you some of the schematics. You know, we'll have to install a pump station, not us, but the streams organization will have to upgrade a pump station. But the streams will also have to maintain our ponds, just for overflow, just in case 13-inch rain comes, more often than next. And then, really talking about what that looks like legally as an organization. So, we've been working with Flattering Hood. They're a fairly decent organization that works with a lot of senators and funding mechanisms in the cities. I think that for us, our real next steps on the legal side is how do we form this organization? We don't want it just to be a City of Winthrop project. This is a large project for all 4 cities and industries, so it's a big deal. The DNR and MPCA love it because they only have 1 permit then versus the 7 that they have now. And quite frankly, the amount of money that will go into this project is actually less than if we individually did it. So the other thing is the recycling side. So the water reuse portion of this project is still going, but Heartland Corn Products does not want to, I will say it this way, stop the project on the wastewater side. So we are engineering just wastewater right now with the idea that we're gonna put water reuse on the side of it. And the reason that we're doing it that way is because Heartland really feels like since it's gonna come to them, they would like to appeal to their stakeholders and really pay for a large majority of the reuse section. Most of that will be going to them. There's also a specification clarity that they're really not sure about yet.
Yeah.
So they don't want to stop the wastewater portion of the project before, we want to get this thing going, especially for DFA. So Streams is going. Like I said, you'll have more meetings at the beginning of November. It'll kind of explain more about rates. It'll also go over construction plans and what that would look like, including what type of lift stations we would need and force mains that would need to go in. I would say that Alan Fox from Lafayette has been a really big help with this project. He's actually on our specs team, and he's the one that has been really good at talking about the technical side of things. So it's really it's a town effort between the 4 of us.
Well, that's what I was gonna say. I think from the meetings I've been involved with, I think this is one of the best examples of small communities working together, because like Michael said, this would cost each of our communities individually more than this joint project would. And we're all gonna have to do it at some point because we all have water issues, and MPCA is not gonna keep renewing our permits. And we need to have drinking water and, water for everything else we need in town. So this is not something we can stick our head in the sand and say, oh, let's not worry about that right now, because we do need to worry about it right now. So this is a great project.
Who owns it?
So it would be the entity that they form. So
Yeah.
we can do that a number of ways. We can do it through state statute or by the courts, but it would actually create its own wastewater district. A good example of that is Fargo, Mankato. Mankato takes Eagle Lake, North Mankato. They're actually a wastewater district, and that's how we would form. So between the 4 cities and the Heartland Corn Products and DFA, we would create one entity as a wastewater district.
With like legally appointed representatives from each.
Yes.
Yeah, from each city.
And who's responsible for paying it? How does that?
Each city would,
Each city
Based
would
on-
still have to
yeah.
bond.
yeah.
And then with the water reuse, we're tapping additional funds, which is good. There's a lot of money in wastewater right now. That's why everyone's talking about it. Mankato just got $17 million to renew their wastewater plant. MPCA and DNR, that's why they're in on these conversations, are the ones that really hold the key to that money. So wastewater is a hot topic around all the Midwest because we're really far behind. A lot of us don't even have mechanical plants. So like New Auburn has been working on this for I think 4 or 5 years, and because of their population and the issues that they have, they've been denied funding by the state of Minnesota multiple times. Their plant, I don't want to misquote this, Kurt will kill me. Their plant would be about $13 million to renew. There's different sections of that, but Then you have the other problem about, so who takes care of the plant? And who organizes the labor for that, right? Wastewater people are not easy to find. So bringing the plant together brings one resource together, so that we're all not trying to find wastewater people, it's one entity. So who pays for it? We all will, eventually. But, you know, because it's a private-public venture, DFA would have to contribute, and so would Heartland Farm Products.
And who determines the rates?
That's, the engineers are working on that right now. That's what they're working on.
But I
What-
mean,
what the
the
rates
co-op or whatever,
The streams
Stream.
board would determine rates, and they would be representative of all 4 communities.
And in the discussions, DFA and Heartland are both very engaged and involved in the discussions. They would, you know, from all appearances, they would really like to see this move forward, because it would be a real asset
Right.
for them too.
well, our for community, I mean, we can reuse our.
Yeah. Yeah, it would be great. All right, what else you got for us, Michael?
And then, just so council knows, the EDA did accept a $20,000 grant from the Southern Minnesota Initiative Foundation. The 17-mile corridor between us, Gibbon, and Fairfax has really taken off. We were recognized 2 weeks ago at the bridge event in Albert Lee for our grant, and so we actually go before the Smith Board of Directors on Wednesday at 9:15 or 10:15. So it's just good that we're getting going. What we're gonna use that grant money for is to hire a company or a person part-time to go over business plans and give young entrepreneurs a resource.
Great. All right, anything else?
No.
All right, moving on, fire, Adam, I don't see him here. Library, Wanda, do you have anything to report?
We just went through the board rosters again, and because they had been the first time they had been appointed, they kind of came up with a recommendation to come to the council as far as who's willing to stagger
Sure.
to do that and things, and that will be a board appointment in, you know, when the council does it, and
Okay,
then they would do the January vote on the new officers for the 2025
okay,
year. They're having a growing collection of connecting patrons to their next great read. They're looking at ways to be able to say, if you like this author, they came back with some neat ideas from the LeSueur Library when they were there for a TDS meeting about if you like this author, this type of book, then maybe try this one. And they were cute little pocket cards and things like that that would be easy to do, and kind of some posters and things that will help do that. They also had a cool leased books company that LeSueur Library uses, and we're going to look into that because you have the option to get, if a book is really popular, to get more than one copy of that book and have it, and if a book is not being used, it can be returned to the lease company and things, but there's a special section that these books are in, and it's identified, but it's a cost-saving way of being able to get the books people want, but not having to purchase multiple copies of books or having people with extended wait times waiting for a book they really want to.
bestsellers, yeah.
And they've been doing October 2026, we are doing storytelling. Again, they've got a lot of mental health activities. If you saw the calendar for the library coming up for that. And they will be making Minnesota books for the Christmas in the Country event for the kids and things. So they're doing a lot. We have visiting authors coming. They're doing some staff development and training and programming for the rest of the year here. So things are going well.
All right, everybody should stop in and see the library. Next is Public Works. Troy's not here. Do you have anything?
I don't have anything for Public Works.
Okay. Planning Commission
Nothing
has
from
not
me.
met recently. RS Fiber has not met since our last meeting. Utilities.
So they are working on streetlights, as Barb indicated, there's a number of them that are out. They're working on fixing them. They'll be up probably the end of this week, next week.
New lights?
No, that one's just a replacement head
Okay.
on that side. The other thing is that we've had a few brownout issues down kind of by the street shop, across from, like Hunnelbee's. They think it's a transformer issue, but we're gonna still troubleshoot that. The power's on, but it's very weak. It's like a phase isn't going through. We got called out Saturday and then again today, so we're working on that, and trying to fix that.
While we're on utilities, I would just like to say thank you to the city crew. A lot of the electrical work on Second Street was done in-house, which saved us money. And
Ton of money.
In walking that street with the engineer and talking to Troy, Troy really planned well. There's great electrical ability there. If we decide we want lights on things, it's there and it's available, and he was very thoughtful about how a lot of that went in, and that did save us quite a bit of money on that project to not have other electricians coming in. So hats off to them, and I didn't know they got called out, but I would like to thank them for going out when the electricity went out in part of town during the end of a Vikings game that I know they probably would have preferred to be watching. So I know they're not here, but thanks to Troy and Chris and Tommy, and Michael was there too that Sunday. So electricity is nice when it works. Ambulance. Ed, got anything for us?
Nothing significant. Still working on getting that class filled up so we can have it here in town, but it's going well.
Okay, I like to hear that. Police. Logan, what you got for us?
Not a ton.
Well, that's okay.
We got a decent update for you on the detour and stuff, though we have seen a pretty drastic decrease in the amount of drivers that are not supposed to be taking East Street. I think the word has finally gotten out now. We still have some here and there, but it's going well. Happy to let you guys know that our newest part-timer is now off field training, so thanks to Reed for training him up and getting him ready to go here. He did have some experience elsewhere, which was pretty helpful. As far as training goes, we just recently did defensive tactics training at our facility with Arlington PD, Gibbon PD, and Gaylord PD. So we got everyone trained up for the year on that, and then we got a firearms qualification coming up next month as well.
Okay. Great.
Other than that, that's all I got.
Keep it up.
Thanks.
Thank you. Cable Commission.
We haven't met.
Nothing. Okay, and Park Committee.
As Michael kind of talked about, and also Katie and Kelsey and Sam, that we met and looked at the final design. If you haven't been on the website or watched the Facebook, there's a really cool video about what the splash pad's going to look like. And it was interesting watching the little kids' reaction that were at the meeting when we did that, and they were like, oh, wow, you know, so it will definitely be a huge asset to all of the parents and grandparents and people that have littler ones that will be using the park. I think it will be really a nice new addition to the park, and will make a lot of young people very happy that they have something to do. And definitely looking at what we can add on in the future, looking for tables and benches and umbrellas that might have corporate sponsorship and things to be able to give people shady places to sit and watch. Really talked about the, even where like the bark is going so it doesn't end up in the splash pad and places it's not supposed to be, bathrooms, all those kinds of things. So it's been a really lengthy conversation about, what are the things that are going there and what are the different design elements. So I think it is very exciting to see that it, next summer could be being used, so.
All right. I think that covers all of our notices and updates. The last thing left on the agenda is the city administrator's evaluation, and as is our policy, anytime we're discussing personnel issues, that will be a closed meeting. So I would like to say thank you to everybody who came and listened to how, city government functions. It's great. I think it'd be great if everybody attended a meeting regularly. So, with that, if someone would like to move to close the meeting.
And that state statute is gonna be 13D.03.
13D.03.
I'll make that motion.
All right, we have a motion by Ed, second by Dawn, to close the meeting to the public. So we'll just wait a minute while people are filtering out.
Are you recording it?
No, it doesn't need to be